Hello again. I'm back to another episode of my defretting a mandolin and making it into a fretless instrument, which the goal with this was not so much to make a fretless mandolin per se, but was to take in an inexpensive instrument, one I could afford to lose, and turn it into a fretless style neck. If anything, I also have an oud and enjoy that a lot and play it a fair amount. My idea was to just make something small that was portable and going to be fretless, and one I could afford to lose, but in the end it's gone pretty well. This was a generic musician's friend house brand Rogue mandolin that was, playable and okay, and I thought had an okay sound for 50 bucks. I did a lot of music on it, but it became the one to see where it went if I turned it into a fretless baby. So when we last talked on the other video, I believe I was shaving down the placeholders that I put in the fret slots to try to stabilize the neck, because when you pull the frets out, you don't want to leave it unfilled in the fret slots, the previous fret slots. From my understanding, over time it will become unstable. I think I said warp early on, and I don't know if that's the right term. This is a new venture for me, so there's stuff that I'm just taking knowledge from where I can get it. But my understanding was you needed to fill it so over time it holds up. And also you don't want to have the pit marks in there. And I think if you were sanding down, as I've been and as I'm going to show in this video, it would start to decay more if you didn't have the holders in there. So I used, courtesy of a friend, strips of old credit cards, which is a good way to avoid getting further in debt. You just cut them. And I filled them down in just about all the slots. There were about 3 I couldn't get in the credit card strips, but the bulk of was, and then I shaved them down with a painter's sort of razor scraper, and that worked really well actually. There were some up on the high end, about 3 that I couldn't fill that way, so I used some plastic wood filler that actually also worked out pretty well. That is a generic, was a brand. It's called Plastic Wood, and it went on really easy and dried okay, and you just kind of pile it up like a little mountain. You could use it for the whole thing, meaning if you didn't have something to fill with, that's what this is for. But I just used it on a few, and then I sanded it down. And I also had nicked in pulling out the frets some of the wood, and I repaired there. There's a little spot there. And before I started doing this, I was sanding this down. This is pretty smooth actually now. I don't think it's perfect. I can still feel a little bit of the ridges from the strips, but it's much smoother than it was. And I'm going to sand on it a little while longer, and I'm just using, in this case, number 150 sandpaper that I just kind of felt like that was probably about right. I don't know if I'm going to stain this. I may. We'll have to see. This is kind of, we're doing this totally shooting from the pants, but it so far has worked out pretty well. So just sanding down the rough spots on the neck and the places where I used the wood filler. So I think the goal is to just go over it evenly, just up and down till it's baby smooth. Don't breathe too much of this stuff. Maybe you can tell it's not the best thing for you. I also had removed the nut, so I can sand the end, and so we'll need to re-glue that back on when we're done. And one other thing that I thought about, I got a feeling it's going to be hard to find round wound strings for a mandolin. I may be wrong, but I may have to put some kind of hybrid thing on this, so we'll see in the coming episode. Do appreciate you watching the series. Probably the next order will be when this thing gets smooth. Consider staining it, or maybe start putting it back together and see if it works. But I think that it's kind of going in the right direction. So far, no disasters, and that's pretty smooth actually. It's not bad. There's a little bit of a place there I think I need to work on. But anyhow, that's this episode. I'm Jim Gooden. Thanks a lot for watching this, maybe checking out my music videos. And have a great rest of the night, and see you on the next episode of Defretting the Mandolin. Take care.